Hi there, this is Karen Brown, and I'm here today to show you how to do this little pyrography project. And I'm going to call this the Fall Fire Leaf Box. We're going to take this dollar box that we got from the craft store. We're going to apply a pattern of leaves on it, and then we will do the wood burning, and then we will colorize the piece to make it sparkle in all the beautiful, brilliant fall colors and set the leaves on fire with our colors. So to start with today, we'll take this dollar box and we're going to get our sanding mesh out today, and we're going to sand this. We've got our 3 grits here. We're going to start off with a 320, and we're going to lightly sand the box over the whole surface. This is going to knock down the tooth of the wood, making the surface really nice and smooth to work from. All the way around. We don't need to do real heavy because the wood is very thin. We'll take the lid off. Sanding with the grain, sanding over the edges just a little bit so they're rounder, a little softer. By doing this, will give us a nice smooth surface to work with. It'll be easier to draw on our pattern as well as to burn into the wood. Now we're going to switch and we're going to go up to the 400. And go over the whole thing lightly again. By going constantly finer grains, we'll be able to get a very smooth finish by the time we're done. The difference. Now I didn't do the bottom of the box, primarily for 2 reasons, because it's where we're going to end and it's usually sitting down, and it's where we can sign it, and you can feel the difference in the textures as we go over these. So I sand all my projects that I'm going to do pyrography work on first, just to knock down that tooth on the whatever piece of wood or gourd or paper or fabric that I may be burning on. These don't require a lot of sanding because they are pretty smooth, and now we're going to do the 600 last. Just go over this real quick. These aren't real rough to begin with, so they don't need a terrible amount of sanding. But it should be done just to give you that nice smooth surface. We'll take a paper towel, wipe off the excess dust, and we will be ready to start putting our pattern on. Okay, I have a collection of small leaves of various sizes from various types of trees. If you want to do your box all in one, you can. But I like to do the leaves that look like they're all laying on the floor of the forest. So there's always a combination of different types of leaves on the forest floor. So with this project, I started on the lid, grab my pencil, and we'll just grab a leaf here. Let's do this one first. And we'll place it on the center of the top of the box, and we'll just simply trace around it to start our project. This is our first whole leaf on the box, and it will probably be pretty much our only one unless you want to just place several other whole leaves on the box at this time, because everything else that we're going to put on will be under or over this one. So we have our first leaf on the box, and from there we're going to use any of the other leaves to enhance the pattern and work out from there. And we'll take each one of these one at a time. We want to lay these on, we'll lay this on here, darken this in so you see it just a little bit better. There. We can see our leaf pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my next leaf and I'm going to lay it up to and touching the first leaf we put on. We want to hold that in position, and we'll trace around it with our pencil, just making sure that wherever this leaf is touching the original one, we do not draw over it. So that when we have the leaf on, we can see that the original leaf is over the top of the one we just drew on, here and here, where it would touch underneath. Now we'll grab another leaf, and we'll put that one on. Again, we're going to touch it to the other leaves that are already on. Now if you want to touch just 1 or 2, you can. I'm just putting it on any random pattern, and we'll hold it down and we'll trace around again. Again, making sure not to go over any of the leaves that are already traced down. We've got most of our leaves done. We've got a few leaves done now, and what I've done is I put little X's into every one of these areas that are the background that are behind all the leaves that are laying one on top of the other. So now I'm going to show you as we go through here, putting this pattern down, is we're going to put one on here, but then we're going to roll it over to continue it down on the side of the box because we want the pattern to match the lid and the side of the box as well. So even when we take the lid off the box, you can see that the leaves match up that are going underneath. So again, we're going to lay this little leaf on here. We will trace the outline that we have on. There's not much showing on this leaf. Then we're going to roll the box up on its edge and just roll the leaf over so that it's hanging now over the edge, and we'll trace this pattern onto the edge where it hangs over. We're also going to trace the tip that's hanging down onto the bottom of the box so that we get everything aligned. Now I would take the lid of the box off, take this leaf and place it back down where it matched up with the original leaf. And like that, we have the leaf matching up now with the one that went on top of it up here. And we're going to continue that with other leaves all the way around until we have the lip finished and down to the bottom of the box. I like to randomize all these leaves. It just gives them a better, more interesting look to the piece if you don't use a bunch of them in the same spot or the same kind. But again, if you want to make it all maples, that's fine. I like using the little bit smaller leaf pattern so that you can get a larger variety on here. And we'll keep tracing leaves until we cover the whole box. Everybody's touching everybody else. Okay, now we have all of our pattern drawn on. We're going to go through with our pencil and we're going to put all of our veins in our leaves. Just sketch them in real quick. Just gives you a general idea of where these veins are going to go on these leaves. Okay, we've got that box pretty much ready to start to burn. I start out with my burner on a medium-low temperature. I use a small ball end on my burner. You can also use a writing nib, which is folded over metal, looks like the end of a hairpin. It allows you to use the pen tip in multiple directions. I use a method called scrumbling. It's from colored pencils. It basically performs tiny circles that overlap and blend together in a randomized pattern to give you a nice, smooth, even coloring on the gourd or wood. I never know exactly how hot this is going to be. People ask me all the time. So generally, I know what the pen is going to do because I've used it enough. But I always want to test it on the bottom of the box to see how much color it's laying down and if it's or if it's too hot or not hot enough. In this case, it wasn't hot enough, so we're going to go with a little bit more heat. These pens are temperature adjustable pens. Usually require 4 to 5, up to 6 seconds to heat up. They don't take long. And we're just going to change this color just a little bit. We've got a nice color coming out now. But because we're going to start in the darker areas, we're going to turn it up just a little bit more so we get a little more heat. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back into all the little X areas we did, and we're going to start coloring those in first. This is an area where you can use just a little more heat. I just don't want to do it to straight black right away. We want to concentrate on filling the area in with a nice even medium brown at first, and then working up to the darker colors with more heat as we apply more layers, just like tanning. You don't want to burn and peel? Take your time. Some people prefer to work very quickly and very hot. I find that it makes for overburned areas, which fuzzes the edge of the line work and bleeds into the other areas, and it makes your work look sloppy. But taking your time, you can get a beautiful even tone to the colors that you're working on. And by keeping the pen tip in constant motion, we're ensuring that we're getting an even coloration on all the areas as we work. And rather than turn the heat up, we just slow down a little bit. We can even get it darker. Just by slowing down, we'll be applying more heat to that area with that pen tip. So while I'm doing some of these black areas, you may take 4 to 5 or 6, maybe even 7 times to go over an area to get it dark enough where it looks near black without overburning it on the edges. I want to do these background pieces first because they make the leaves pop out from one another. And you can see where one is separate from the other. And also, because we want to put our shadows in on our leaves as we're burning at a later point, so we want to make sure that the background is done so we can see those separation areas. You can see we're just scrumbling between each one of these small circles, filling in each spot as we go. Try to randomize the burn. We don't want to go all the way down the edges to outline it, because this is just a shaded area. So we want to keep it a nice even tone. So we got almost 2 layers done on this one. As you can see, you can start to see the leaves where they're separating out, and each one coming out of the background. Okay, then we're going to do a leaf shadow since we have this one partially done, and we know that it's on, this is our whole leaf here on the top. I'm going to come in and I'm going to start my shadowing underneath here where he lays on top of this leaf. Now in this case we're going to do the scrumbling, but we're going to do it so that it does follow the edge of the leaf. Because this is a shadow line, it's going to take on the shape of the leaf that's giving it the shadow. And I do all my shading first on pieces like this, because once you cut into this box with the skew or the micro spear to do the line work on the veins, it makes this box very coarse to burn on. So you don't want to burn on anything that will darken it, because if you put a dark right next to a light, it really makes it pop. So we're just going to wiggle in a little bit of dark highlight right around there so you can see that box. That leaf edge is popping right out of that box right there. It shows where it goes on top of the other one. So we'll do the same thing up here at the tip. We're doing this hotter than normal. I know we normally would not have it quite this dark, this fast, but for videotaping purposes, it makes it easier for you all to see this. Come out just a little bit, make sure that it's got its little point on it, and then we're going to come back in right up next to the edge. Just do tiny, tiny circles and highlight just along that edge. And fuzz this out just a bit. And then we have our next shadow in. And you can see it lifting off of the background, because you need to determine on this box where the light source is coming from, so that if the light is coming from this direction, that all the veins on the top of the box show that light direction as the same, left or right side from where the sun's coming on in the box, to highlight the leaves. Just putting those dark shadows right up next to that white of that leaf edge. Popping that right out. We can continue this all the way around here. And this one's going to be a little bit coarser and darker because it is, this leaf is the third. This is 1, it's on top. This is 2, and this is 3. So this is actually 3 layers just in here. This is going to be your darkest leaf because he's all the way down the bottom underneath both of these 2 as well. So that's how I determine who's going to get how much shadow on a piece, is how far down are you underneath all the other stuff that's on top. If you're down here on the bottom layer, then you're going to get the most shading, the darkest shadows, because that's where you're at. You are down there underneath other leaves. So we'll just scrumble our way around these leaf edges. Now because this third one is down so far, we're going to make his shadowing out wider than the leaf above it, to increase the amount of shading on the leaf, to give even more depth. So we try to keep the temperature down. It takes a little longer to do, but the results are well worth it. And as you go, you can see that we've made this dark pocket where it's the third, the darkest part of the shading, where this side is just about as even with the others. So you can tell that one is going to be much deeper than the others. So we're going to change pen tips here real quick. On this one, we are now doing a micro spear, and I'm hoping that you're going to be able to see how small this pen tip is. It's thin, it's very flat, but it's sharp on both edges. So what I'm going to do is I've turned the temperature down because the tip's a little smaller. We're going to again try it on the bottom of the box to see if we can get a line down. Again, looking for an even 1-inch line of good color. Turn it down just a little too far. Okay, we've got a nice even line, good color. We're already set to go. So then we'll flip our box back over. We're going to start by putting the veins in. We're going to start in our center one again. And you can start at the back or the front. In one steady motion, we want to kind of just keep the color going. And this will cut into the wood creating a little groove where our vein is. And then we'll do our sides. Line work I find is really hard because you have to be very patient, not go too fast, not go too slow. You get a nice even color, and it takes a steady hand to make the lines. And you can't press terribly hard because this wood is extremely thin, and giving it too much heat or too much pressure, and this will slice through it like a hot knife in butter. All right. Then we're going to put the one in this one, primarily because if you twist the pen in your fingers very slightly as you're drawing it, you can get your veins to curve and not have to stop and start. So we're going to start with a twist. The pen is twisted over this way, so we can start. And as we come back around, we're going to twist the pen slowly back away from us to get it to straighten back out. It's a tough thing to learn, but you can learn to control the twist of the pen to be able to give yourself curves with a straight edge on your burner. Now some people will go ahead and outline all of these leaves. I don't think it's necessary because we're going to burn in all the shadows, and that gives us our details that we need. We'll flip the box over, just keep going. There, we got those two lined. Okay, I think we're ready to go ahead and we're going to start doing our colorization. We're back, and through the magic of television, our box is all wood burned, and we are ready to start our colorizing. So what I'm going to do is I'll take the lid off, and we're going to work on the lid first. We're using, this is alcohol ink, and this is sunshine yellow, sunshine orange, red poppy, and currant is our four colors we're going to be using today for our die. We start out with our lightest one going to dark. These are miniature wool daubers. They're little tiny wool daubers that you would use to apply alcohol ink or leather dye to leather, but they make them real small for those who want to use stamping inks for stamp book projects. I like these because they give you irregular sized dots, but they hold a lot of liquid. These, as you can see, they're already got color on them. We use those for our pearl paints, and these are the ones we're going to use for these. You could also use liner brushes, which are the long bristle brushes. These are 10-aught. Both of these are 10/0. So they're real fine, long bristled, hold a lot of paint or liquid. We're going to start out with our yellow, like I said. We're going to take this, we're going to take our yellow dauber, and we're going to load up just one drop on it. And we're going to start with our yellow on our highlighted areas. And we're just going to apply it just happy wherever we want it to go. You can apply as much or as little yellow as you want, depending on your preference choice. We want to wear our gloves because even if we slop a little bit, it will stain your skin. And somehow I always manage to get it all over me, so I just wear the gloves. Because it's our yellow, I'm not really concerned if it gets on any of my other leaves because we still have other colors to apply. So I randomly place it on any of the leaves that I want the yellow on. If it's a little light and I want it a little darker, then I'll go back over an area to give it just a little bit more. If your leaf goes over the edge of your box, be sure and hit that side of it that's going over the edge. Okay, I think that's about enough yellow on there for now. When we want to do the, we can set this aside when we'll work on the bottom. Then you can use the dauber just like a little paintbrush to highlight any of the areas that you'd like yellow. The alcohol product of the stain or ink dye dries extremely quickly. And it'll soak right into the material that you're adding it to. So we don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to dry in a proper amount of time because it just dries pretty much instantly. As soon as the alcohol evaporates, the ink is dry. Some of the old stamping inks that we used to use had to be heat set, where these are much more color fast and dry much quicker, so we much more prefer to use the alcohol inks. And get a little more on here. Okay, that's about enough yellow. Okay, we'll move to our next color, which is our orange. And because I am not going to go back and put any more yellow on, I can use this yellow pad to use the orange because I'm going to the next darker color. So that way I'm not wasting the brush. You can clean this out with a little bit of alcohol. The alcohol we use for this project is 91 proof isopropyl alcohol. You can find this in your drugstore right next to your 70%, which is normally what you buy for your home use. We want the higher proof alcohol for this project to keep the liquids evaporating more quickly. And with the orange, we're going to just basically just brush it in a little bit on areas that we want to add to it. How dark you make this depends on how much you want to put in. And just play with it. Have fun. Leaves are randomly colored. If you find some outside that you really like, you can put them into the freezer and in a sealed bag, and it will keep most of their color for a while if you want to use them as a reference. You can laminate them and freeze them. That keeps them really nice. Again, just like any of the others, if you want it darker, just always put another coat on it. And we'll drag that out, darken that up, put another coating of orange on there. Alright, with the orange on our lid, we'll start in the bottom. Again, it's just playing with the colors. If they bleed over a little bit and one into another, it's fine. It's not going to matter. Because I want to leave this leaf mostly yellow, I'm going to come in here and just going to put a little bit of orange on the shadow spots to darken it down just a little bit. So it's not just one solid color. Our yellow. Now we're going to go into our hot colors, our reds, and get that in here. With this one I'm going to use a new dauber. I'm going to be a little less generous with the color on this one. You can accentuate any of the shadows by adding this. We're going to take a little bit of alcohol, spray it on there, gets it really wet. But it's easier to blend the colors then as you work around. So we randomly select where we're going to put our reds. The alcohol will thin down the dye, making the color a little bit more transparent. So it may require a second coat. This is the fun part. You just get to play with colors. Put them down randomly. Kind of play with it, see how much you like, what colors you like, which ones are popping for you, which areas you like better. There's no hard and fast rules because their fall leaves are all these different colors. And we'll come back in and do the red on the bottom of the box. Okay, there's our red. Now we've got one color left to do, and that's our current, which is going to be adding to the highlights of our shadows. So take a red again, take this brush, since we're going to the very darkest color now. Go back to the lid and just go over the darkest areas, the darkest part of the leaves. Just want to make them pop right off of there. You don't have to do it on every overlap, but it really enhances the colors on some of these when you're putting the darker ones right on top of them, or right next to them, I should say. As you can see, it just really pops out those shadows by putting a little bit extra dark underneath and around all these leaves. It really brings the multiple layers together. Okay, finish up and do the side, then we'll hit the bottom. Good, there's our top. We'll hit the bottom and be done with this part of it. This is the part I usually take my time on, just to make sure that I got all my shadows done. We can separate the under and over leaves from each other. Okay, and that's it for our colors. The only additional thing I would do on this one is take a little marker and just put dots, random dots on your leaves. These are sugar spots. All fall leaves have them, at least to some degree. Some of them have them more, some of them have less, depending on what type of plant or tree it came off of. But it adds a little more interest and life to the piece as we do it. Some of them are concentrated in one spot and then they gradually pull out. But stipple a few spots in. There, okay. A few random dots on there. All right, our next step is we're going to put our pearlized color on. And these are pearled powders. These are from Pearl-X. It's a brand name. They come in individual containers or you can buy them in a big set. I happen to have the set, but I'm only going to be using the yellow, the copper, and the russet red today to do the highlights on here. Again, I always start with my lighter colors. And because this box is now dried, we're going to take the lid and we're going to spray it just a little bit. A nice little coating on there. We're going to take our yellow powder, pick up just a little bit on the dauber. You can see that it makes it puffy. And we're going to apply it to our yellow areas. And this will give us the pearlized effect of the mica that is in each one of these powders. Now there will be a little bit of excess on the box lid as you're working. We expect that. Just kind of push it in just like you would with any powder. You want to work it into the surface that you're working on. Get a little dry. Work it onto the dauber because the dauber will dry off before we have to pick up the next. This is going to give us that sparkle that we really want to see on these leaves. Stick within the yellow colors. We'll use the oranges on the orange areas. A little bit of alcohol will make this stick just a hair better to the box as we're working. You have to work a little quickly because that alcohol does dry out real fast. Now we're going to do the copper. And copper is very strong, so we want to make sure we put this down just small areas. We don't need to glitz out the whole thing. We just want to hit some highlights on these. I don't know if you can see that, but that copper is really popping on there. All right. Now we'll do the box. All right. Call that one good, and then we'll put the dark one on. Okay, we'll go back to the lid. I'll lightly spray it again. Now we'll apply the red. Again, we just want to randomly place it. We don't want to have it too highly polished or decorated. But we want to pick up the highlights with a bit of sparkle. And there you can see the top's all finished then. With all the sparkles that we need. And then we have our completed box. Now because this product is what we consider movable because of the powders on it, I would advise that you would put a coat of workable fixative over the top. It says matte fixative on here. You don't care if it's matte or gloss. What it's going to do is it allows you to spray the finish on here. This will seal the powders down. It'll seal the ink down so that you can put any kind of finish you want over the top of this. It'll hold pen and ink, colored pencil, anything that's movable, oil pastels, things like that that move or would be affected by a finish. So we're going to spray this and let it dry. I will take the lid off, spray the bottom as one piece, spray the lid as a separate piece, and then varnish them the same way. Just finishing up the box, you can paint the inside, you can decoupage the inside with fabric or paper, you can paint it if you so desire. The finish is up to you on how you want to finish your little boxes. But this is our project for the Flaming Fall Leaf box, and I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I did making it. Thank you.